Hi everybody, this is Craig Tanner for The Mindful Eye and the photo of the week on the Daily Critique. This week's photo of the week was created by Mark, who is an advanced photographer from Pennsylvania. Metadata, Nikon D700, 20mm lens, effectively ISO 100, f16, and 6.2 seconds is the exposure trio. I want to talk more about that in just a second. Mark's general backstory is that he just created this image a week or so ago at an Independence Day celebration fireworks show. And I want to talk a little bit more about other information that we got from Mark and his backstory towards the end of the video. One of the things about fireworks is that, at least it seems in my experience, that these kinds of displays are becoming more common all year round. Tourist areas a lot of times will have a regular fireworks show at the end of each week or on a weekend. A lot of sports teams play in open stadiums. When they win, there'll be a small fireworks display. So this is a subject matter that we could end up shooting in a lot of different places. And it can be technically difficult to pull off. So I wanted to go back to Mark's metadata and just mention a couple of technical things about shooting fireworks. To get this kind of a shot where we have detail in the foreground part of the shot where we can see where the fireworks are coming off, where we want to show some environment besides just the streaming explosion of the fireworks in the sky, we're going to need to be on a tripod to show this much movement from the center of this burst. This is a 6.2 second exposure, and this is a classic exposure setup here for fireworks. When I'm teaching, a lot of times say the great starting point is very close to where Mark is shooting here, ISO 100, f11, and then playing around, camera on tripod, bulb mode, watching the sky, and then working with a remote release or cable release in bulb mode to play around with long shutter speeds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds, 6 seconds, 10 seconds, sort of in the 4 to 10 second range. Can be really nice at ISO 100 and these f-stops, really f8, play with f11, f16 to get this wonderful combination of enough light so we see detail in the setting, and then a really nice length of time to see sort of the whole blossom here of the fireworks explosion. It can be very, very difficult to meter when we're shooting fireworks, because this firework explosion itself is something that is happening over a short amount of time. Very, very difficult to meter this. And one of the things that these automatic metering modes in our cameras can trick us into thinking is that exposure is very, very complicated. The fact of the matter is exposure is really simple. If you start to journal your exposures as a photographer, you're going to see that you're using, in similar situations, the same combination of settings or similar combination of settings over and over and over again, because it's generally the same quantities of light that you're working in. So this is a great thing if you want to go shoot fireworks in terms of these settings. Just write down when you get there, start off here, and then play from there. You could almost teach a whole clinic on shooting fireworks from this shot. It's one of the more beautiful, technically powerful and compositionally powerful fireworks shots I've ever seen. One of the things that I love about this shot is that if you just shoot the fireworks against the sky, that can be a one-dimensional story as a visual storyteller, and those shots are really common. It's not nearly as common to see a shot where you get a really beautiful burst of fireworks that have been recorded over time. Then you also see a really beautiful composition on the setting where the people that are enjoying the show are sitting and where the fireworks are being lit. And Mark has just done an absolutely fantastic job here of scouting this location, creating this composition where he's really telling us a complete story about the experience of being there. Everything from the spectators to a really beautiful composition in the setting, and then the fireworks themselves. There are other things just from a general design standpoint that I think are working really well here that I want to mention that might help you if you're working on your own images. Mark has cropped this, and crop is a very, very powerful tool from the standpoint of being a composer of a photographic image. Nikon D700 is a classic 35mm aspect ratio. It's a rectangle 1 by 1.5, and this has been presented as a perfect square. So in addition to scouting and camera position relative to the subjects, Mark's also cropped this to show us this composition of the scene. And one of the things that's happening here is that the main subjects have been presented within the square in a very formally symmetrical way. The circle of the blossom of the fireworks here has been centered, sitting right in the middle of the square, If we look at this lower part of the shot, this kind of implied rectangle with the fireworks in the middle, this has a very strong sense of formal symmetry too. And taking subjects and presenting them inside of the square in a formally symmetrical way, or maybe another way of saying this is centering, is congruent with the framing device itself. This is a symmetrical framing device. To me, this is one of the most exciting things about square crops, is it can not only allow us to present things in a straightforward, centered way from a design standpoint, it even encourages it. And I try to point this out maybe once a month on the Mindful Eye. Rule of thirds is not just some overall concept. It is specific to the framing device. It comes from the ratio of your framing device. So when we go to a framing device that is symmetrical, to take your main subjects and center them in a symmetrical way rhymes the framing device itself, and so much of the time it works better than dynamic presentations within the square. Another thing that I love about this shot is how simple color is playing out. Color is such a powerful element of design, and when colors just start to show up here, there, and everywhere, you have a lot of different hues of color, it can really overwhelm any of your other design ideas. And there are several classical things that are happening here at the level of color. Number one, there aren't that many colors. The colors that are here are in very powerful but very graphic, vibrant, simple relationships. Yellow and violet's a pair of complementary colors from the painter's color wheel. Red and green is another pair of complementary colors from the painter's color wheel. So having just 4 dominating colors, and the fact that within those 4 you have 2 that oppose each other, incredibly powerful in terms of making this image simple to look at, and at the same time very dynamic, and also just really beautiful within the square, how the relationship of warm to cool is the same in both areas of the image. A little bit of the warm high energy color, less of the lower energy cool color on the outside. Same thing down here, a little bit of the very high energy warm color, less of the lower energy cool color. Absolutely fantastic. The other thing that I like about this image is the inclusion of this on the right hand side. It's a hard edge, it's an anchoring idea, it's a building, it has a lot of mass, and it's really nice to have these kinds of subjects either in the right corner or along the right side, because we want to go from left to right and stop and come back. And I call these visual stops, and having them on the right hand side of your frame can play in a very nice way, and I just love how this stops me and brings me back around again in this composition. So many other things that we could talk about in terms of composition, but I just want to mention something else connected to Mark's backstory, and I think it'd be a powerful takeaway, particularly if you're a beginning photographer and you really want to shoot big scenes. Mark says that this is really a smaller fireworks display that's community based. It's in his neighborhood. It's a Kiwanis carnival. It's not one of these huge fireworks displays, some super dramatic location in a major city. And because it's community based, it's in his neighborhood. It's near where he lives. It's small. It's somewhere where he can get to and he can find a neat vantage point. And it's a display that he's been to several times. So I really want you to hear what I'm about to say. If you're just getting into photography and you want to be a scenic photographer, I really want to encourage you to practice close at home. Shooting scenes and shooting subjects and scenes are very mature, so in other words, they've been photographed a lot, can make your job in getting the viewer's attention and holding the viewer's attention very difficult. If you want to work traditionally, you want to create shots that aren't just documentary, but they do have some element of design, and you are pushing towards an aesthetic that's relating to design, then that's a tall order. And one of the ways that you can increase the odds that you'll get better and you'll improve and you'll create these shots that make the viewer feel the same way that you feel when you're having these experiences is to spend time in the same places over a long period of time. So in other words, consciously practicing close to home. And Mark says a pretty long backstory. Really appreciate all the information he gave us. That a big part of the reason why he got this shot is because he'd been here before. He'd scouted. He'd tried different things. This isn't just a shot that happened in one night. This has played out over the course of several years. And if you follow the work of landscape photographers who've been shooting for a long time, you'll hear that archetypal story over and over and over again. It's about getting to know a location so much of the time and then going back and spending a lot of time there, and then everything comes together. And the nice thing about doing this work in the same places is it can teach you a lot at the level of just technique. Your job's going to get really hard if your concept is to go far away to places where you're going to go one time for a very short amount of time, and just because it's a fantastically inherently beautiful place, that means you're going to get great pictures. What I find is that so much of the time the opposite is true. Absolutely fantastic fireworks shot. I want to say a big thank you to Mark for sharing it with us. I want to say a big thank you to you for being here. I hope to see you again real soon on The Mindful Eye.